We're just waiting for a few more people and then I'll get started introducing today's webinar. Oh, it's so great seeing lots of students come in.
So lots of people who were here last week, which is good fun.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, everybody.
That's true. Recognizing a lot of people. Right. Just wait one more minute, everyone, and then I'll introduce everything and we'll get started.
The thing I've been enjoying most about being back is cups of tea.
Cups of tea. Oh, love a cup of tea. I should have made myself one actually earlier. But I think I've exceeded my tea count today. I've had like 8 cups already. Got a bit overboard. Right, I think I'll start introducing everything since we've got quite a lot more people here now. So, hi everyone, welcome. Lovely to see a lot of people from last week's webinar back again. So I'm glad that you really enjoyed it. My name is Isla and I'm a current undergraduate at the University of Exeter, and I've been working on Edu-venture with Richard, and I'm the founder of the Edu-venture Society at my university. So Edu-venture is focused on encouraging students to pursue careers with a social impact, and we'll give you lots of opportunities and trainings and stuff to do with societies and events that you guys can get involved with to gain all the skills that you need to do that after university. So if you've been on our website, I'm sure you've had a little look around, but if any of you are at university and would love to set up an Edu-venture Society after today, and you've had a bit more of a look, there's an email you can contact and forms to fill out, and you guys can talk to us about doing that. So we've partnered with Gotoco China, which Richard, one of our guests today, is one of the directors of, so he'll be telling you more about that. But Gotoco China, I cannot recommend enough if you're looking for an opportunity to really build your confidence and start off like working abroad for a little bit before you, or even after you finish university. They run cultural exchange programs in China for students, and I got to go last year, went for almost 2.5 months, like maximum program length. I loved it. I wanted to go back this year, but obviously, you know, COVID's kicked in. So I'm sure you could apply for their programs next summer if you really wanted to. And I think Richard will tell you more about that. So I'm gonna, for Richard, if you could kick us off with introducing yourself and what you do.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so as Isla said, I'm one of the co-founders of Gotoco, and it's great to see so many loads of Gotocoers logging in for this chat. But for those that don't know Gotoco, so we offer free and funded summer camp placements, so TEFL kind of work travel placements in China. So people come out to China, teach English or lead outdoor activities on summer camps all over the country. I was looking earlier at the numbers again from last summer. We had 90 different camps across 48 different cities all over China, north, south, east, west. So most people come out for a month or two, teach English, working towards the TEFL, which is a Teaching of English as a Foreign Language certificate, which is really useful for jobs, obviously in teaching, but also just generally, it's just a really good way to show that you have a lot of soft skills and you have work experience across all kinds of different sectors. We've been going for about 5 years, welcomed over 2,000 students from the UK, US, Canada to China. Obviously this year's a little tougher for programs in China. So we've been working with Isla to launch Edu-venture to still offer something to our community that can help people in thinking about what careers they want to do, developing skills, and kind of working out where to go after this pandemic. So one of the things we love the most about our programs, kind of hearing about the kind of realizations or reaffirmations people have had about what they want to do after uni or with the rest of their time at uni. And it's really sad that this year that's not going to be possible with our programs. So we wanted to launch Edu-venture to still kind of give a platform for those kinds of things.
Amazing. Thank you, Richard. Kit, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Kit Harford. What I normally say after that is, and I'm originally from the UK, but a rare chance to be back in England. So I've been in China for about 12 years now. I originally went out studying and then teaching English. And I'm currently the CEO and founder of Tech Trek. We teach primary school kids how to code. We have 3 offline centers in Beijing. And we're about to launch, we've just launched in the UK. We're about to launch in Tianjin as well. And we have, I guess the main goal of what we're trying to do is help young kids engage with technology, think differently about their opportunities and the skills they need going forward. Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so I think the place will start, because obviously all of us are students and we want to know where you guys started when you were our age, is what did you study at university, and what skills and sort of things did you learn at university that maybe directed you into later wanting to do what you do now? Kit, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I studied Chinese and history, following slightly too many drinks with a friend of my older brother who studied Chinese at Leeds. I was originally planning to study history, and he tricked me over some pints and persuaded me it was a good idea that I should study history and Chinese. So I went to Leeds to do that for a year, and then the Chinese program at Leeds, you go abroad on your second year. So I spent 2006-07 living in Beijing just before the Olympics, and had an amazing time. Fell in love with the country, the opportunity of being abroad, and everything that being outside of your comfort zone brings you. And then after graduation, went to Shandong, kind of to the middle of nowhere, to teach English and to polish up my Chinese skills after not learning that much when I was in Beijing, probably due to the pints as well.
I love it. Richard, what about you?
So similar, I studied Chinese as well. In Oxford, when I was deciding what to do at uni, I was essentially just a bit bored and apathetic about everything I'd been doing at school, wanted to do something new and different and interesting. And Chinese kind of ticked all the box. You could do it ab initio at Oxford, so you didn't need to know any, you could just kind of dive in. And I just found that really enticing. So went for that. The kind of course covered all kind of history, literature, ancient Chinese, modern Chinese, Mandarin, everything. Our second year was in Beijing, and that was a lot of fun studying there. Mainly not really that much studying, to be honest. It's more about traveling around the country and playing football and meeting friends and all the kind of normal things you do in a year abroad. I then came back and knew that I wanted to go back to China, or certainly abroad, and mainly to China. I didn't want the skills kind of I'd been learning, and also principally really it's the friendships I had in Beijing. It seemed just sad to have made all those friends just for a year and then not to go back and kind of carry on and pick it up again. So I went back straight after graduating, went back to China, partly to start Gotoco. So Gotoco grew out of, so Danny and Lisa, my co-founders, they'd done summer camps in China back in like 2009, and then started taking friends and then friends of friends, and then just growing out into the wider kind of Oxford, Cambridge, Durham communities, student communities to China. And they asked me if I wanted to get involved with it, because they're my best friends at uni, and I definitely did. So we, after uni, kind of more formally founded Gotoco and started growing it. But obviously at that point, it was in a very nascent stage, and wasn't really ready to kind of support us on its own, and it wasn't certain whether it would work out. So wanted to do other things at the same time. So while Danny did studying at Tsinghua, and Lisa worked for an SME that worked in 3D printing. I started working in policy research. So I worked for China Policy, a policy research advisory in Beijing. I worked for them for about 2 years as a research manager, which was just a lot of fun. And then once Gotoco got to a point where it could sustain itself, and also just that it was too busy for me to do 2 jobs at the same time, I then stopped the research, and then I've been working on Gotoco ever since.
Amazing. So you both studied Chinese to a degree at university, and then obviously, Richard, you said that you were working on it part-time while you had other jobs with Gotoco, so that you could sort of work everything out. But Kit, did you go straight into your current business after university, or did you move to China to work, or did you work in the UK first? Like, what happened after you left uni?
Yeah, so TechTrek's my second business. So basically, Beijing was awesome, and not the best place to learn Chinese, honestly. And so I basically believed that if I was going to be serious about being in China and learning Chinese, I really need to push myself to get myself out there and to put myself in as a Chinese as an environment as I possibly could. So a friend of a friend recommended an English language training school company, fairly standard kind of option. And I had a friend that I was going to go with, and because there were 2 of us, they said that we could go and be the only 2 foreign teachers in the school, and 1 person needed to be the manager. So I obviously, as I was the one who, I don't know, slightly organized, I was like, well, I'll be the manager and teacher. So I ended up managing that school. It was a little bit of a mess, but it was kind of fun. Like the first day at the school, the first weekend, my friend Ned, very tall, very good at football, and the manager was like, the Chinese manager in the school was like, welcome, what do you like doing? And he found out that my friend Ned liked to play football. And so the first weekend, he wasn't asked to go teaching. He was asked to go and play football with the manager's friends, and then go and do party and build connections with the manager's friends instead of teaching. So I was left handling all the kids, and so that was kind of straight in at the deep end. And I taught for a year and went for a cycle trip around Northeast China. We did a 10-day trip. Me and actually the teacher arrived after my friend, and we were just talking about life and plans and ideas, and we cycled through this very beautiful seaside Chinese town with an amazing beach, and we thought, well, wouldn't this be a lovely place to spend a year or 2? I wonder if we could start a school, and could we teach ourselves, and how might we do that? And then we got back to our kind of reality and our Chinese friends, and we started chatting to them, and they all thought it was a wonderful idea. And there was a kind of basic choice about whether to go back to the UK and possibly do a master's or get a job, I guess. And instead there was a kind of general whip around with friends and family and some Chinese friends as well. And then we went to the town next door and started our own school.
That's just, to me, that's just crazy. Like, it's amazing. And I mean, I would love to do something like this, but it's mind blowing that you went across the world and thought, it's fine, I'm just going to set up my own school, like, sorted. And the same with Richard, like, it's fine, I'm just going to start all these cultural exchange programs. So if I wanted to do this myself, like, where would I start? Obviously, you guys, you moved over there, you had these great experiences and met some cool people who I guess like helped you build your confidence in initial roles. But when you decided, like, yes, okay, this is it, we're setting up our own business, what were the 3 things that you would say that you did first, especially in regards to funding and like the legal requirements of setting up your own business abroad?
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing first?
Of course you can.
This is how I was thinking about it at the time. Ultimately, even today, kind of the worst thing that can happen is you get on a plane and come home.
Yeah.
Privileged thing to say, but it's also true. And certainly starting off, that was the truth. I mean, there's responsibilities that ultimately mean you wouldn't do that, but it's a long way away, but it's still like a bus and then a plane. And I think knowing that is a nice thing to know, because same as doing anything, the worst thing that can happen isn't really that bad. So confident building. Yeah. So
just do it. Is that what you're saying? Just start. Just get started.
Go wrong.
Yeah, I definitely second that. In terms of just, I think I've seen a few of the questions that are coming in from people who signed up for the webinar, and a lot of people were asking this kind of question, like, how can you find something to do abroad What's the best first step to get going there? I know this isn't your question on the kind of starting the company, but really the best way to get going with moving abroad is just to move. You can spend kind of hours and hours worrying about finding something before you go or getting the right visa or whatever. But for most countries, it's kind of more imperative just to go there and just to start researching yourself, things that you find cool and interesting, and contacting people and just asking those people what to do or going and meeting them in person. So like, for example, for myself, when I was leaving uni, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was mainly just very certain I didn't want to go down a corporate route. I felt like it was I was just on a conveyor belt going through, like going to school, doing okay in exams, getting into decent uni, doing okay at the uni, and then just getting a corporate job, and then kind of just going up the ladder, and then getting a mortgage, getting this, and just until you retire and then die. And just the whole idea of it just seemed incredibly uninspiring to me. And that's just for me personally. I know for a lot of people, they see a lot of things they want to do in those routes, but for me, I just thought that's not what I want to do. So all I did start doing was just contacting people that I thought were doing cool things, just emailing random people, and just kind of trying to talk to them, trying to have conversations. But I was in the US just after in September, just after graduating, promoting Gotoco things, and I just, whilst I was there, met like 10 people working in like policy research to do with China, and just asking for their advice on how to get into it. When I went then to China, I just met with Philippa Jones, who ran China policy, which is where I ended up working. And I went to see her thinking I was going for advice, and then it turned out that she was offering me a job at the same time. It kind of summed up how some of the things went there. It was all just a bit random and unexpected, but that's the fun of it. And then working in China policy, which is a small SME, which is doing great things, but as with any small company, there's kind of a lot going on, and you have to throw yourself into all kinds of different things. So you're doing policy research at the same time as learning how to code back-end bits of a website, at the same time as learning management skills of people. So it's like real in at the deep end, and that's kind of the best way to learn. So just to reiterate Kit's point, just if you want to go abroad and start something, then just go abroad and just try and make it happen. Don't agonize too much over like how to start it before you go.
Just jump in.
Yeah,
go straight for it. I love that. Yeah. So back to the business. I love how you guys got really inspirational with this. I'm feeling very excited now. So back to the kind of like, let's say I've gone there, I'm ready, I want to start my own business, I've got an idea. Where did you guys start? I know, Richard, you worked, obviously, like you said, in a policy company first, so you maybe had a good idea of requirements for setting up your business, but where did you start? Was it more challenging, would you say, to do it abroad than it would have been here because of funding, legal restrictions, or what would you say?
Well, we were lucky in that running something like Gotoco, because most of the value and the work was just in kind of me, Danny, and Lisa putting hours in and making it happen. It's not something which has like needs really high investment to start with. It just needed us and a computer and some willingness to create a website. And then it was more about people and connections and traveling around the country. So for us, we didn't need to go and find an investor, and it would probably have been not necessarily helpful to us because we were doing it more with our social aims in mind rather than just wanting it to be a big kind of massively profit-making enterprise. So for us, getting me just working in China policy and having that kind of a salary which was more than enough to live on was kind of enough for me then to spend my weekends and evenings getting Gotoco going. And same for Danny, had a government scholarship to studying at Tsinghua. He was doing an MBA at Tsinghua, and he had a government scholarship and a stipend from that, which kind of covers everything like rent and living costs. And then you can do a bit of tutoring and things around the sides to get a bit more money. So in terms of funding, it was fairly simple. It was more just getting living costs covered. And I know quite a lot of friends where it's been the same. It's just having a wage is enough for you to then get your thing going on the side. And then after it's been going for a while, maybe that's when you then go and get investment. Once you know it's working. I don't know, Kit, you had slightly different experience with with how you went?
Fairly similar, but also I think, just thinking as you were talking then, Richard, about different approaches to doing things, and I think that going abroad and getting moving with stuff is definitely go for it, jump, run, dive. But actually starting a business, stop, think, and then probably don't. I think that the entrepreneurship is given or like taking investment. Maybe it's taking investment, not starting a business, but as soon as you lose control, it's remarkably tough, because you have to do stuff, and you often will think you start a business because you want to have control and you want to do what you want. But once you've got other people's money, so we've raised money with TechTrek, and we have to do what we said I pitched at the beginning, whatever it was, 5 years ago, and so here we are. And I kind of can't get off that thing. Not that I would want to, but it's a bigger commitment than I think it can come across sometimes. So yeah, what are your goals is the other one. Like Richard, you very nicely or very that you said, like, goals are as much social as business and I guess money, right? And that's really important, to knowing what your goals are. So for me, we started this business in the middle of nowhere. We were a city of 500,000 Chinese, about 20 foreigners. And honestly, we started because we thought it was a good idea, not because we knew how we were going to leave or what we were going to do with it. And it all worked out largely okay in the end. But I think being really clear about what your goals are, because it's easy to think that you can do all these things, and actually in reality, getting stuck can be quite hard, and or achieving one goal but not the other. So I definitely will think hard next time I start a business. Where, for example. But financing. So what we did was we carried on working. Actually, I was working for a small chain, or a reasonable sized English teaching chain. So they've got about 100, 150 centers around Beijing, teaching about 100,000 kids a year. And we actually franchised their brand. And so in return so we carried on teaching on the weekends, and then we worked on setting up our own school during the weekdays. So we similarly could pay bills there and work on this one. And then in terms of the actual financing for everything, we just did it as cheaply as we possibly could, and we split costs between 4 or 5 people. So it worked out to be about £10,000 per investor. And once that was, one Chinese, one family, one investor, one whatever. And so that's how we got to where we ended up. And it all worked out quite well. We ended up with 5 schools and a team of about 60 people. So everyone did well, and kind of yay for that.
Love it. That's really interesting. So when you got people to initially invest, were they people that you'd met through your original school, more kind of friends, or were they people in the local area that were very interested in growing that business?
So we got the franchise put in equity. So the franchise and the franchise costs, we negotiated a whole of the first year plus the initial franchise fee for an equity stake. That was one. We had a Chinese partner who was our connections man, which is an important thing. There's lots of stories about that. And then the rest was kind of friends and family, really. Some my friends and family, and some his friends and family. 2 each, maybe it was 6 in total in the end. And yeah. And then all our savings and not getting paid for a year, whatever else it was. But also that's nice. We lived in the school. We lived in the classroom. There were some amazing photos of us sleeping on mattresses in the floor with a fridge and a shower in the toilet, and that was it. So you can make things work.
Amazing. So just throw yourself into it and really get there. That's really cool. So then, comparatively with TechTrek, which you said is your second business, so I'm assuming after you set up these schools, how is that compared in terms of setting that up and investors? What's the difference?
Quite different. So we've raised just short of $5 million in investment.
Oh, wow.
So so that's a different scale with 50 people, Beijing and the UK, and that's a different scale of thing. But ultimately, our goal is. I was talking about a UK launch, and my investor would have just knocked me around the head with a baton and said it's international launch. Come on. So there's a different scale of goal, of ambition, and ultimately of what we've got to achieve. So. And that's been a totally different process around, pitching and contract negotiations, financing and refinancing.
Amazing. Because Tech Trek isn't online, like you've said, it's aimed at teaching coding to children, right?
Exactly. So primary school coding for now Chinese and international kids, offline originally, now offline and online, and actually now due to COVID only online. we
So
should have been scaling this year. So we should have opened 3 new centers this year. And we should be at 5 centers and a team of about 100 people, but it didn't quite work because everything's changed and I'm in the wrong country without really meaning to be. So, yeah.
Oh wow, COVID's posed some challenges for everyone, hasn't it?
Certainly.
So obviously both of you both studied Chinese, which meant that I don't know what level you guys were speaking, but then Kit, you've mentioned that you had your Chinese investor who was kind of your connections man. What level of Chinese would you both say that you had when you left university and moved to China? And how essential was it that you spoke a good level of Chinese, or what were the challenges with the language barrier with trying to grow opportunities you had and like expand your network for your businesses? I don't know if Richard, you want to start?
Yeah, so in our course at Oxford wasn't really trying to teach you Mandarin. In fact, a couple of our professors would get quite annoyed if you suggested that they should be trying to teach you to speak Mandarin. It was very much more academic. And so my level of Mandarin when I left was good in reading and writing, or more reading than writing really. So like in the policy research I was doing, all of our sources were in Mandarin, or some even in classical Chinese, and that was all research was in that, and then but all writing was in English. So in terms of writing, like I took to that pretty easily. That was fine. Spoken though, I learned a lot more from playing football with a bunch of Chinese guys than I ever really did in speaking in Oxford, particularly in terms of useful vocabulary. In Oxford, we kept on just learning completely useless stuff about kind of mad industries, things you'd never use, but I didn't know any colours. Like I could tell you all kinds of different chemicals in like chemical industry, but I couldn't tell you like purple. So I definitely learned a lot once I got there. It has been very useful to speak Mandarin because what we've been doing is a lot of our programs are in smaller cities and towns around China. So when you go there, being able to speak Mandarin is obviously very helpful. We've obviously relied a lot on Lisha, who is Chinese, and she's kind of managed those relations with the Chinese clients predominantly. I'd say you definitely don't need to know, in terms of China, you definitely don't need to know Mandarin to go there and do it. I've had loads of friends who've gone to Beijing with no Mandarin. Most have learnt it whilst they're there. Some haven't, but they're all doing all kinds of different things. So particularly if you go first as an English teacher, you can teach English and then learn Mandarin on the side if you want to. But there's a lot of opportunities, particularly if you're in cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen. We just don't really, it's definitely better to speak Chinese. You'll get much more out of the experience and your people will appreciate it a lot more, but you definitely can do things without. But yeah, I don't care, how did you feel your Mandarin was?
Yiping Bing the Pijo. That's all you need to know. So yeah, the same, arriving in the middle of nowhere. I have this investor friend, he's the man. He just like scooped me up and was like, watch this world is crazy. And he thought it was hilarious to have a foreign friend. His English was like so, and we just used to roll around this is the second largest oil field in China. Have you guys done camps in Dongying?
Dongying, no. We had some not far, Binzhou and places.
You've been Binzhou, which is where I opened my own school. Where I first arrived in Dongying, which is the second largest, the Victory oil fields. If anyone would like to go see a very flat piece of land with nodding donkeys on, check it out. And basically thought it was fun to like get us out there and introduce us and like play football. That was the guy my friend met playing football, was the manager's friend. That was the guy who like made him go and play football. And yeah, all about getting out there. My Chinese is way worse now though, which I don't know about yours, but mine, having been in Shandong and running everything in the middle of nowhere, and now it's terrible. But I don't think it matters. I think smiling is probably more important, and having patience. Those first conversations are never anything, and being patient and smiling, I don't think it really matters. Ultimately, if you want to really run a business, that might be a different thing. But I think as long as you've got your angle or your edge, whatever it is that you contribute to whatever organization you're in, as long as that's strong and relative and connected to who you are, then I don't think language matters enormously, although it certainly helps, and cultural sensitivity is probably more important.
Yeah, I mean, when as well, like when I got to go with Gotoco on my program, I don't study Mandarin at university. I didn't speak any. I just could say like please and thank you and yes and no. That was it. And everyone in the Gotoco programs, they're so helpful. They're so supportive. And I know some students who go out with them, like they have learned a bit of Mandarin, and the kids love it. The staff love that they've really made that effort to speak a bit more. But like Kit and Richard have said, it is, like you said, that it's not a barrier. Like the energy that you'll convey to other people, that sort of atmosphere, people will really understand that what kind of person you are. Oh, this is making me much more excited to move abroad after graduation.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that quickly. I completely agree. People are incredibly welcoming, and they make a huge effort, much better than we are here in England. When foreigners come here and don't speak English, we're very, very dismissive. But in China, I've always found people incredibly helpful, welcoming, make a really big effort to try and speak some English to you. And yeah, you definitely can get by. I'd also just say we're obviously very privileged being English speakers, and more so, particularly as I say in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, the younger generations of Chinese English is just incredibly impressive. So more and more, it's becoming less necessary for those first steps to speak Chinese. And just as an example, when I was on my year abroad, I had an internship, was helping one of the largest alcohol distributors in China, Baijiu, to start a wine business. And I worked for them. I didn't need any Chinese. My Chinese then was terrible. And I was just creating basically a database of what best wines in the world and giving them tips on how to sell them, despite I had no knowledge of, I'm a very rudimentary Mandarin and no knowledge of wine, and I still had a job doing that. So there's a lot of opportunity in China. It's definitely somewhere you can just go and get started without worrying too much.
Amazing. So like leading off of that, how did you find these opportunities? How did you find a job to go to before you got out there? For example, this internship with the wine opportunity. How did you find this opportunity? How did you find that? Like, where was it advertised? How did you apply for it? What was the whole sort of experience like?
The wine one's actually quite funny, and Danny might not appreciate me saying this, but Danny, that was on our year abroad. Danny, he's messaging me now. It's Danny actually found the job and applied to it, and took me along because he wanted to do a work share. And then they decided they didn't want him and they did want me, because he turned up in thinking shower slippers, and they didn't appreciate that. So then I ended up awkwardly having the job and he didn't. But yeah, Danny found that one, so it would have been better to ask him. That was on the Beijinger though, which is a website in Beijing for expats to find jobs, pieces of furniture, whatever it may be. As I mentioned before, I found the China policy role just by emailing Philippa. I actually first heard of them because there was an advert sent around by one of our department heads, because if somebody in the year above had worked for them. And then I just went out to China and met her and ended up getting the job. And I know quite a few people where that's the case. They've just kind of gone out, contacted somebody and then rolled into something. Kate, how did you find Aston?
A friend of a friend recommended it, and then I just emailed them probably. They called me back, kind of delighted, so that was good. But I think the more specific you can be, like you just mentioned, if you can get down to that expat level. There's also obviously the websites like Dave's ESL and things like that out there. But also actually the university networks were quite powerful. Quite a lot of my year ended up doing things that were being advertised or promoted by the university. And there's another interesting option, which is finding, especially with China, there's lots of scholarships available to go and study for a year. And that's a great option because, to go and study for a year, because you can basically cover your costs, or most of your costs, do a little bit of teaching perhaps, and then you're there and settled, and you've got some language, and by that time you'll have made the friends you need to make and met the people you need to meet, and you'll know what you want to do or not.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There's sorry, Ada, just to add a couple more things. I've seen Danny's put in the chat about the Beijing area. That is a really great option. Or for places Shanghai, there's things like the Shanghaiist have stuff. You can also look like things like That's Magazine, which is a kind of local expat, predominantly expat magazine. Often has a lot of opportunities in it, or if you contact the people that are writing for it and the editors, they'll know the right places to look. And then the other really great resource, not just in China, but kind of around the world, British Chambers of Commerce. If you contact, I know the BritCham in Beijing is particularly good and very hot, and the people who work there do excellent work and are very friendly and helpful. But I know all around the world, if you go and just contact somebody in the country you want to go to at the British Chamber of Commerce or related organisations, those kind of industry groups, that you'll often be able to be put in contact with the right people. And then just as a slightly shameless plug, next summer, or this was going to be this year, but now most likely September 2021, we're also going to be launching a fellowship scheme where people can come and teach for 1 or 2 years in Beijing, and at the same time have kind of career training to get started in careers with a social impact. So for non-profit social enterprises, and just all kinds of networking and training opportunities. So that will be an option for people graduating next summer to come out with us to Beijing and kind of have full support to whether you want to go into teaching long term or not, just to come and get started in a career abroad.
Do you have any opportunities as well, Kit, that you're offering to students?
If anyone interested in internships, either here or online, I guess at this point, yeah, I'm definitely interested in people. We're just working out things in the West, so delighted to talk to anyone if you'd be interested in short or medium term work or opportunities. Definitely. I just hired someone from Leeds, so that was good.
Nice. Very
cool. I think another question I've had quite a few students ask as well is, how was the transition from being, living in Britain to being an expat? Sort of what did that entail? Was there anything that was quite challenging or quite sort of alienating about that? Kit, maybe you want to start.
Should we quickly answer that question? There's a question there about this summer. Richard, do you want to answer
that? Yeah, I can quickly do that. So for now, lots of the summer camps in China are going ahead. Ones in Beijing aren't, but most of the country in China now has the COVID situation under pretty good control. So camps are going ahead, but unfortunately the borders are still closed. So currently our programs are postponed. If the borders were to reopen, then we're kind of ready to go and be there to support people, but it's looking unlikely now that programs would be happening in August or September this year. So we've offered everybody who'd applied to our programs the option to either withdraw now or to defer to next year and have a guaranteed spot on our programs next year, and to start the TEFL training now. So you can get your online TEFL now whilst you're in the UK, and then go to China with us next summer. But there's loads more info on that on our website. If you want more, you can message me in chat after.
I'll add all of the websites for everyone at the end. If you guys stick around, they'll all be in the chat box, and then you guys can see everything and check out all the information. Sorry, I cut you off, Kit. What were you going to say?
Going to China for a summer is an excellent idea. That's all. It's so much fun and interesting and different. And even if it's just a couple of months, it's amazingly like world stretching. Your world will be different if you do it. And that's a cool thing to do with time. Much cooler than making £1,000 or whatever it is, a few grand. Yeah.
That's very true. Very, very true. So yes, so what was it like transitioning from living in England to China? What was it isolating in any way, or very challenging to become an expat? Kit, I don't know if you want to start. Sorry.
So my first night with this Chinese friend that I've mentioned, we were welcoming the new foreign teacher, and he was like, we should take them out for dinner. I was like, we should take them out for dinner. This is a good idea. he's like, I'll book somewhere. I was like, make sure it's like not too, keep it under control, not too crazy, whatever. He's like, of course, don't worry. Takes us, we go to the train, actually to the bus station, pick him up, slightly nervous chap. Okay, well, who's all right. We're gonna go for dinner. And he's booked a frog restaurant and all they've got is frog. And just sat down, he's like, dinner, and just like loads of different frog dishes are served. It's like, oh God, welcome. So there's only so much you can do. And ultimately, yeah, either you think that's fun or you want to run away, either way. I think one of the best things about China in particular, and I don't have enough experience or any experience of other international communities, but is how friendly everybody is. I think China self-selects for interesting people. It self-selects for people who are purposeful, and you can make new and interesting friends fast and well. I mean, Richard and Danny would be an example for me. We allowed to tell that story or not?
Go for
it. So that is appropriate. Anyway, so I've been. We met at an embassy event basically, and Richard asked the embassies host different cultural events. There was one on education and the future of education in China, alternative education in China. So both of us were there. Richard asked a question. It was in my world in terms of context. So I went over and introduced myself, and we ended up going for lunch afterwards. And I've been staying at their house for a while. I've been doing an experiment in homelessness. So I've not had a fixed place to live for a while. So I've been exploring and seeing different things. And that's something that rare thing to meet someone at an event and just become friends afterwards. And that's part of how warm and welcoming international communities in China can be. Yeah,
that's definitely something which I've only had experience of a few different places, but after school I worked in Paris for a while, and I lived in Uganda for a while. And Uganda is great, everybody's incredibly welcoming, but Paris was it's not a very easy place to move to and to just kind of get settled in, get started. People are very cliquey. People aren't that, similar to, I think, if you're moving to London, it can be quite hard to find your feet if you're coming from abroad here, or if you're going to some cities in the US. I lived in New York for a bit as well. It's very hard to make new friends because everybody's got their big group of friends and they're not that interested in meeting new people in any meaningful ways quite often. Whereas when you move to China, kind of everybody's very open. Both local Chinese people and the expat community are all very welcoming. They're saying things like the British Chamber of Commerce, a whole lot of different cultural groups. There's all the kind of expat-y bars people go to, where you just meet people and people are up for meeting people, and there's just really good community feel. And Chinese people are just incredibly welcoming and helpful. Of course, there's unpleasant people everywhere, but there's definitely a far higher ratio of just incredibly welcoming. And it's much more part of the culture there to have people just randomly invite people to your house for dinner in a way it's not really here in the UK. So I think moving somewhere like China is definitely a lot less daunting, I think, than moving to the US even though the language barrier is obviously less going to the US. I just think it's harder to move somewhere where people aren't quite as open. I mean, maybe small town US and places would be different, but certainly when I was in New York, it's somewhere you've got to fight to find your feet rather than being welcomed with open arms.
Yeah, I think it's such a brilliantly welcoming place, really. It's confusing and completely mental, right? Because you can't really understand almost anything that's going on, from like which direction to walk or what's written on a menu or anything, like the TV, like lots of it just doesn't make sense at all. And yet everyone's like friendly and lovely.
That's so nice. It just sounds like a very valuable community to be part of. Would you say that you guys really feel like you've got a good home there now, if you've lived there for quite a long time? Kit?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no, but I feel very comfortable there. I mean, I'm slightly just said I haven't had a home for about a year, but that's a technical point. But no, it's not that. It's not. I don't think. I think I feel at home there, and I love it. But yeah, I'm also, if anything, more aware of my roots and where I came from. But that's, yeah. But you can feel very quickly welcomed and comfortable and happy. That's, yeah.
I definitely feel Beijing's home. It's kind of partly, it's almost so much home that it's almost a problem in a way of just where, if I was to settle in one place, where would it be? Because UK is obviously where lots of friends and family are, but I can't imagine not spending at least 3 to 6 months a year in Beijing. Like my football team, which are all Beijing guys, they're like family in China, which still sounds a bit kind of cliche and silly, but like it really, like it's very weird to now not see them. We play set football and go for dinner, everything every Saturday, and see each other a lot in the week as well. And it's very much like part of my life. And so whether I'm in the UK or in China, it's kind of like I'm missing out on something somewhere. You know what I mean?
Is it the food? You always miss the food.
Definitely the food.
I miss Chinese food, and I've only had it for a small period of my life. So good. So good. I can't recommend Chinese food enough, guys. Go and go to programs just for the food, honestly. I mean, the people, like Richard and Kit said, people are so welcoming. It's amazing. Just such interesting and mind-opening experiences. But the food is so good. So good. You guys tell I'm very, very bitter about the fact I'm not in China eating hot pot right now. So we've had a couple of questions from some of our people who've joined us today. And one of the questions asked was, how should students stay motivated and productive when their plans to move abroad have been put to a halt because of COVID? Do you have any advice on how to, because obviously you guys are stuck in England too.
Yeah, so I'd say it's kind of like the same. One of the key skills where if you move abroad generally anyway is flexibility and kind of always being on your toes and ready for the next opportunity. So whilst currently it's not possible, there still will be opportunities probably later this year, and if not next year, to go abroad. And it's just to kind of just keep yourself ready for as soon as it's possible, keep an eye out. So for our fellowship teaching program, we're still hopeful that we could welcome some people in September 2020. There's a lot of talk of teachers being able to move there for the start of the new school year. So that still is open as a potential avenue. I'd say just keep developing if you need to find work in the UK, say before you go, then if you need to just do something that's for money, that's for one thing. But if you have options, then do something that's developing the skills that you're interested in and is kind of in the right ballpark. And then just as soon as things open, take the leap. I don't think things will stay shut forever. So just kind of have to be patient and be ready to dive into it as soon as it becomes available.
Mm.
Someone's saying saying they had pea ice cream. Nice. Sweet corn or pea, left or right. It's amazing.
Do you have any tips, Kit, on staying motivated when you can't be out China traveling?
So yeah, it's tough, and I think life is up and down, and yeah, I mean, I struggle with it a lot, really. These last few months have been amazing. I've been at home. My sister had a baby, and that's amazing. It's been fun to be an uncle, and then also I'm really not meant to be here, and I can't help my team properly, and well, I'm just not. This wasn't the plan. This was 2020 wasn't meant to be like this, right? So yeah, I think it's really hard sometimes. So I empathise entirely with that. My thoughts. This is slightly dodging the question, but I think I was thinking about this hour and what I think most about what I've done and what I might do differently. And I think it's really thinking about goals. I talked a little bit about them before, but like, I think thinking right now that my goal has been to enjoy my time with my niece and my parents and to garden. I've been having a lovely time growing beetroot and stuff like that. But really thinking about what the goals are and whatever time they can be, because ultimately I can't control what I was meant to be doing. And so really accepting where I am and working out what is the most useful and productive thing I can do, which is make the most of all the things I've missed while I've been away. And similarly in Shandong, when I first opened school, I didn't think about enough about what the goals were, and I actually made a big mistake. I thought I was going to make some money, and so one day we were walking along, we were finished whatever, and our school was profitable and quite successful, and we were market leader in the city, and it hadn't taken too long, and we were probably thinking too much of ourselves. And I remember very clearly going for a walk where we were like, well, we could sell the school now, and we could, you know, we've done this school thing and it's been good, sell the school, and we could, so we could stop, right? We'd sell the school, we could make some money to go. And instead we were like, no, well, let's wait like 1 year or maybe 2 years, and then we're gonna make more money. Except we'd never really started that business to make money. And instead what happened was there was the government changed some of the regulations, or the high school exam focus moved slightly away from English, and our numbers went right down, and we had to spend the next year or two basically just sorting out the school to make it okay. And we sold it for almost exactly the same amount of money, if not actually less than we probably could have on that day. And that was me totally losing focus of what I was doing there. I was there because I wanted to learn about the world and improve my Chinese and to find out what it was like to be an entrepreneur. And I think that being clear on your goals, that's certainly what I think I need to be better at, is being clear on my goals. And so this time I've been as clear as possible on getting to know Rosie and learning about gardening. And when I go back, there'll be a different set of goals.
So to lead off from that, if you could both go back to yourself when you just graduated uni or you're in your final year of uni, what would the top pieces of advice be that you would give to yourself, Richard?
Going back to that is, I think a large part of it would be actually to just relax a bit more. I think, and I still probably need to tell myself this now, but kind of put a lot of pressure on myself, did a lot of worrying about what you should do and what's the right first step and where to go. And obviously a lot of that's useful for thinking about what you want to do, but I think a lot of it is kind of a little bit pointless. And I'd say there's a lot of opportunity out there, and it's certainly not the case that the first step you take is going to be the necessarily the right thing or what you want to do. And you're going to have a lot of meandering through, particularly like your career. So don't kind of put as much stress on those first steps as I was putting. I'd also just say, this is something I was relatively good at, but I'd say to just say yes to more things, and just to try way more experiences, and just to make the most of all of the different options available. Obviously at the moment, there's not as many things going on with COVID, but there's certainly, I wish I'd gone to way more kind of events and different talks and things whilst at uni, and got involved in more kind of just random weird things, because you don't realize when you leave uni that those things aren't just available on your doorstep and easily accessible once you've gone. So I just say make the most of the opportunities whilst you have them. But that's also a piece of advice that I was given by somebody who'd graduated whilst I was living in Uganda before I started at uni. And I didn't not heed it, but I certainly didn't really heed it. So I'm just giving myself some advice that I was already given and ignored, but I'd certainly try to ignore it less if I went back.
Okay, if you got your advice.
Yeah, so I agree. Yes is key, right? The world is what we make it, and we can say yes or we can say no, and yes is the correct thing to say. So this is not my advice, but it's something that struck me most. Of all the like business books or the like how to do your life books, this is probably the number one thing that I've taken, was Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg. And so she talks about her husband joining LinkedIn when it was 13 people, and talking about a career advice, and what she said was, go where things are moving fastest, because not where it looks best, but where things are going to move fastest. And I think for Richard, you and I, China was a great place to do that, because it's been moving fast. I could be 25 or 6 and manage a team of 30 people, whatever it was. And that was because it was far enough away and fast enough that these things were possible. And so I think thinking about challenging and different things that move quickly, and then saying yes to them, Yeah, and so places where things are difficult for other people and therefore they move quickly is a great place for opportunity and growth.
Amazing. And then I think the last question I'll probably ask, which is based off one of the questions we've had in the seminar question section, is how Richard's mentioned working in Uganda, Paris and New York. And I don't know, Kit, if you've worked in any other countries as well, but how did you find those experiences? Did you use similar websites as you've mentioned for your China opportunities, or are there any other spaces that you'd recommend for students to apply to?
So for me, for Paris was again just a case of, I knew I wanted to go, and this was just straight after school, wanted to go and improve my French, live somewhere different and just have a good time. And it was again a case of just, I contacted loads and loads of like restaurants and places where I could get jobs. And in the end, it was actually through a contact of my aunt, who then knew a guy who ran a restaurant. And so it was quite fortuitous that they could put me in contact. And then I ended up, a friend of my sister's was studying in Paris, so I ended up sleeping on his floor to begin with, and then kind of through his network. So it was again a case of just throwing the net wide, trying to find something, and then just making the most of those connections and contacts I did have, and just making the step across. When I went over to Paris, my French was pretty awful. I didn't really know what my job was going to be. Well, I knew it was a waiter, but I didn't really know anything about the restaurant, and I didn't know where I was living. And I just kind of worked it all out once I got there. And that's still my main advice. Uganda was actually through kind of a connection with my school, had a connection with a school there. And so I went with that, but I didn't really end up doing what I planned to do when I went there. I was meant to be just teaching in that school, but it quickly became apparent that school didn't really need us, and there were way more interesting projects going on in town. So I just kind of met people and started working in their projects. So yeah, and I just say I think the best way to find things abroad is to just go and talk to people, and to just send emails, and to make phone calls, and to just go there and just put yourself in people's face. I think there are obviously great websites that go overseas, go abroad, things like that, where you can find opportunities. But really, I think it's about working out what you want to do and what might work, and then just contacting people.
Just asking for new opportunities. Okay, amazing. Thanks so much, guys. Are there any projects that you guys would like to share with the students that you're currently working on before we wrap up? Anything else to add?
We're currently launching in the UK with a slightly ragtag team of largely part-time people, but I'd be delighted to hear from anyone who might be interested in joining in some capacity. I'll send my email over in a bit. We're currently 5-6 people, having a lovely, rather exciting and fast-moving time learning about customers, new markets, new opportunities, and so far, some very happy customers.
This is to do with Tech Trek.
Exactly. So online kids coding. So we just launched our camps, just had our first ones this week. Yeah, online STEM and coding classes for primary school kids.
Very cool. And Richard, do you have anything you're working? Yeah, anything you're working on? I know you've mentioned the Chinese programs obviously coming back next year, but is there anything else that you want to add? Yeah,
so definitely China Fellowship, which I think I saw Danny put a link to in the chat. If you are looking to get abroad this year and still trying to look for things for September, then definitely contact us and let us know, and we'll try and look at what opportunities there are for you. And then otherwise, yeah, if you're interested in coming to China next summer, then applications are open now for 2021. So start applying.
Go to Binjo.
Yeah.
I think we'll wrap up there then. I mean, thank you everyone for coming. If you want to obviously reach out to anyone and ask us any further questions, I'm sure we'll send a feedback document around people so we can get some feedback on this one, like we did with the last one. And please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm very, very happy if anyone wants to reach out on LinkedIn just to ask questions about how they can set up their own Edu-venture society at their university, or what other opportunities we'll be offering in the future. So yeah, it's been lovely having you both. Thank you so much. It's been a very informative session. I feel very confident now about graduating next year and just jetting off.
Good luck, everybody. Keep the spirits up. Yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah. So
Thanks
you
everyone.
so
Thanks,
much.
Isla. And yeah, good luck everyone with all of your projects. And if you want to get in contact, then feel free to contact me through Gotoco or LinkedIn or anything. Always pleased to help.
All the best.
All the best, guys. And there's some links in the chat if you guys needed any of the websites. They're all there. But you guys can just search up what we talked about today, Gotoco and Tech Trek, and you'll be able to find it.
Yeah, and just one little thing. If you had a question and it wasn't answered, then just we'll try and answer them in a blog. But also just feel free to email and I can answer those on another platform for you. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, Kit.
Cheers, Richard. Thanks, Anna.
Bye, everyone.